Hello, hello. It looks like I am live. Welcome to Speak Powerfully with Dia Bondi. I'm just double checking all of my settings. Welcome to my office here in West Berkeley. We're doing this 3 days in a row. Monday, Tuesday is today, and tomorrow to really celebrate a big milestone, which is to launch our brand new website, diabondi.com. And we're talking every day a little bit about the 21, which you can get on the website actually, which are the 21 things you can do to elevate your impact in front of any audience at any time. Now, the intention of the 21 is not to give you 21 things to do. The intention is to give you 21 things you can choose one or two of to try and experiment with and see what fits for you, what helps you be a more compelling communicator at the most critical moments. And we may be having a visitor drop in on us in a little bit. So I'll just get started by sharing. We've been through number 1 through number 8, and today I just want to talk about number 9 and number 10. Number 9 is, and these are all, by the way, an outcome of my 20 years of working one-on-one and in groups with folks to help them speak really in a compelling and more powerful way at the most critical moments in their careers, whether they're a C-level leader who is stepping in front of their all hands for the very first time to help their teams get to know who they are in that moment as the lead in that function in order to build trust and create clarity and align people, teams, and cultures. Or if it is on a campaign trail, or if it is in a fundraising activity. So I want to talk really quickly about two things. One is number 9, which is to trust your audience. And when I say trust your audience, what I mean is two things really. They can handle you. So often when I work with folks, it's very easy for us to sort of take our full selves and just mute it down enough to make ourselves more universally appealing. And while I'm not suggesting that you dial up the parts of your voice that can alienate folks, I am offering you the thousands of hours and the thousands of hours of rehearsals I've done with folks. I'm offering you that your audience can handle a lot about what is most compelling about you. If direct is where you live, you may lean into your directness. If painting a picture and being as detailed as possible is where you live, you can lean into that at choice moments in your story to help grow and paint the picture for all of us. We can handle you. And in fact, when you give us a little bit of a peek into who you are, we have a better sense of what matters about what you're sharing with us and who you are as the spokesperson of it. So trust us to take it. Trust us to handle you. And guess what? If we can't, there's a good chance that who you are at the table, who you are walking around the office or at your home office, or who you are on stage is not necessarily a great match for the person for whom your most compelling self doesn't land perfectly squarely with. We don't have to be all things to all people. So that's number 1. And in fact, the people who are in the disposition and ready to be compelled by you are going to be more compelled by you if you trust them to handle the part of you that is the most compelling. Number 1. Actually, it's number 9. And number 10, know what you want to say. Literally know what you want to say. Operative word is want, not should. Want. What is it exactly in this part of your story what is it exactly that you want to say? Not what should I say, not what the right thing's supposed to be, but know what it is. Don't necessarily say it, but understand what it is in your preparation so that you can take the thing, you can be honest with yourself about what it is that I want to say, and then figure out how to say it so it doesn't lose its essence in front of the audience that you're about to speak with, in a way that meets them where they are, in the voice that is your most compelling self. So those are 2 of the 21. They are thing 9 and thing 10 to help you be more compelling in front of a room, any size, but when stakes are high. And guess who we have with us today? we have with us, who's just about to jump in, Maria Ross, empathy specialist, brain strategist, who I invited last week
Hi.
to this live stream. I'm so happy you said yes. Hello.
I am so happy I'm here. This is so much better than what I was working on.
Sometimes you just need a
Hi.
break for a second.
I mean, yeah, you do. I just got craziness going on, but I was like, I want to make time for some Dia.
Let's
And
do it.
I already like, I'm listening to you for 30 seconds and I'm already like, yeah.
I love it so much. So I need to add your details here because this is sort of last minute. But the thing that I was just talking about is let me see. I'm just grabbing your book right now so I can make a link to it and put it right into
theempathyedge.com.
That's it. Theempathyedge.com. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I am sharing this week a handful of the 21 strategies you can be most to help you elevate your impact in front of any room. And
yes,
the two that I was pointing it to just now are number 9 and 10. I have to remember because there's a whole 21 of them.
Yep.
Trust your audience and know what you want to say. Now, I think trust your audience is a little bit of an empathy exercise. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking care of them and pandering to them. It means you have to know who they are and also sort of recognize who you are also. It's like you have to have equal empathy for your most, your most, I don't know, true voice, and also recognize who it's pairing with.
And I think it goes nicely with the other tip you shared, because it is about knowing your audience and who you're enough for. And those are your people. You can't be all things to all people. And that's why you have to be very clear on who you're talking to and what they want. How do they see the world? What is their core belief? Which is all about, my work as a brand strategist. It's really understanding that audience and not trying to get the largest quantity of audience. It's about really focusing in on your people. And if other people get caught in that net, great. But you can only figure out what they want and what will resonate for them and trust them in that if you are specific on who they are, right? So many of us, it's like, I speak to women, but there's all kinds of women. But do you know your women? Like, who are your women that you're talking to in terms of your teaching or your work? And resonate with those people. Don't try to please every woman under the sun.
100%. And it's kind of interesting. I think sometimes having empathy, when you think about trusting my audience, the audience that I know that I want to be speaking to trust them to be able to take the thing that I want to bring to, into the room, onto the stage, whatever. You have to you also, when you recognize that my audience can take this, but the audience that isn't mine might not be able to. And so for folks like me, maybe even folks like you who are independent professionals, what that means is I'm kind of talking circles here, but hang on with me for a second. What that means is if we are empathetic to the audiences that we might see as ready for us, but aren't, we are now empowered to go, you know what? They're not the right ones for me.
Exactly.
And we can start actually laying down boundaries in a way that actually honors our most powerful voice, our most powerful self.
And I even have another way you can flip that. You can be who you need them to be if you're talking to the right people.
Yes.
Right? If you're not talking to the right people, whatever you bring is not going to be right for them.
Yes.
And so you actually do them a disservice because there's probably another person that's right for that group of people that they need to be hearing from.
100%. So, I just had that recently. I had a woman inquire about having me come do some facilitated experience with. Sorry, I've got a little hair flashing at me. Facilitated experience for an offsite. Very first in a startup space. Very first offsite. They're actually going to come together, COVID safe, like that for the very first time.
That's a big deal.
30, big deal. And she had heard good things about me. And so she reached out to me, and I can't tell you, could I do the work that she wanted me to do? Yes. Was it the right fit? If I really practiced a little empathy, imagined what the circumstance was, who they were, and whether it was actually ideal for me to show up in my fullest self and have it be right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And not just like my fullest self in terms of my personality. I'm talking about in terms of my content and what I
Mm-hmm.
actually am doing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much relief to say, I'm not your best choice.
I love that. It's because it's a barometer. Like it's that litmus test of all the analogies I use, right? Of like, is this the right fit? It doesn't mean you only shine your light only where it fits, but it means that you at least are intentionally adapting with full knowledge of what's best for that audience, right?
Yes.
And then there gets to a point where you're like, no amount of adapting is right for this audience. I need to say no, right?
Yes.
But you could go into it going, okay, maybe these people can handle 90% Dia.
Yes. Or
depending on where they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
or
it's
part
not
of
a
it.
confessional moment. It's just
Exactly.
like, what part
Right.
of it can I be fully in that is
Right.
actually meets them where they are?
Right.
And not
Right.
trying to shove my whole everything into the faces of an audience that ain't ready.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the difference, I think, between people that show up at them as themselves like they're on a mission to prove people. I don't know how to say this. People that show up as themselves in an aggressive way.
Yeah, in a
like,
confrontational
accept me
way.
or else, right? That's the difference between somebody that shows up as their full self and can dial it down because they understand the audience. They're not changing who they are.
No, by the way,
But
that
they're acknowledging there's an audience in the room. There's
Yes.
other people in the room that have to absorb the message. So you can show up guns blazing and say, I don't give a whatever about what these people want. I'm going to be me. That's a very different way to show up. That's a very selfish way to show up as yourself.
Yes.
Versus if I show up as my full self and this is the right audience, they need me to be 100% who I am.
Yeah, Dino Anderson joined us on the live stream maybe 2 weeks ago and talked about this notion of like, being compelling or having impact doesn't mean putting power on the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's often showing up so you can have power with the room.
Mm-hmm.
So, Maria, you are on stage a lot, and you are a
virtual
hobbyist.
Stages these days, but yeah.
Yeah, but you're a hobbyist actor. I'm talking about over the course of your career, right?
Yes,
you live in the world of acting, you have, and in theater as well as live stages for your the speaking portion of your business, virtual and otherwise, and a big part of your world is showing up and speaking powerfully. How did you figure out how to do that?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. I think partly because when I was initially on stages, it was for acting and I was telling someone else's story, right? And I had to embody that other person's story. And it was about being sensitive to, was the audience with me? Like, and I didn't call it empathy then, but were they feeling it? Were they in it with me or not? And if they weren't, what could I do to embody that character more? Whether it was comedy or drama or whatever, it's like you have those nights where you have a great audience and those other nights where they're like crickets and you don't know what you're going to get, right? But it's how you react in the moment. But you have to be in the moment enough and perceptive enough. And it's really hard when you're acting on stage because you're actually supposed to be telling your story and in your story and not really remembering that there's an audience there, but you kind of have to remember there's an audience there. And I think with public speaking, carrying that over is like just making sure people are with you. Like, not only are they tracking your content, but are they with you? If you want them to feel a high, is the energy in the room amping up? If you want them to have like a solemn, pensive moment, are they bringing things down? Like, you're controlling not just did they like it or not, you're controlling like the energy in the room. And you have to be in the moment enough and not in your own stuff of like, this is the all about me show, right? To be like, okay, we're like, just like you said, I love that. We're in this together. We're having this experience together. And are you having the experience that I wanted for you?
Okay. So can I say back what I think I heard there?
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, I learned, or the way I trust myself to speak powerfully is that you very intentionally activate your global listening. like you're
of nonverbals. Yeah.
yes,
Of
like
energy and nonverbals. Yeah.
what's happening in the
Mhm.
room, and to actually have that be at play and on deck, and like having, you are actively participating in that nonverbal awareness as
Mhm.
a feedback loop for yourself.
100%. And it's hard because you have to remember your stuff and you have to be open to reading the room in the moment. And sometimes that means you need to be flexible enough to adapt what you're saying in the moment. That's empathy. That's actual situational empathy of like, this is where my person is right now. So I might have to skip some slides, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
might have to spend more time here. Like that's where you have to adjust, and you can't just be like, well, I was supposed to be at slide 13 at this minute in my presentation, and
so
gosh darn it, no matter
you know,
what. Yeah.
absolutely. And so you know better than anyone that sort of one of the core pillars of my work has actually evolved into one component of how I define mastery now in communications is control.
Mm-hmm.
Courage to speak from the heart,
Yeah.
control when the stakes are really high, like in the
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
and and are you actually having an impact on me? Courage, control, impact.
I
I
know.
wonder where
Where'd
that
that
came
come
from.
from?
I don't know.
But that's a hard thing. Like even now, that control aspect is scary. Like let's not.
Right.
It is when you're in that room and you're presenting what you think is an amazing talk, and you're getting people are checking their phones. Like you've got to figure out what to do in that moment, and sometimes it means, in a really scary way, throwing away the script.
Yes, and the
And going
beauty
like,
of that.
okay, I'm seeing that you're not with me on this. So let's talk about that. Let's take a question. Let's tell a story. Let's whatever. And let's forget about the other 20 slides I was supposed to get through. Because
And you can feel in that moment like,
Mhm.
oh, this is out of control because it didn't go the way I expected. But
Mhm.
actually, you are more in control because you are responding to the actual situation at hand, which is the baller move right there.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
is actually out of control when you hold tightly to your own plan and let the room go away from you.
Yes.
That is actually you not being in control.
Totally. And it's
And I don't
scary. Like
mean
I don't want anyone to think that it's easy, because like that still scares the pants off me when that
yes.
happens in a moment. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Do I feign like a technology glitch? Do I like what do I do? And that's where you just have to have confidence and mastery enough in your content and in what you have to say and what you have to offer to go, hey, wait a minute. We're clearly not, reaching that shared goal together.
Yes. And
What
I'm
can we
gonna
do to get back on track?
and I'll go back to one of these 21s, which is to trust your audience, which is to say, if things fall apart for
Mhm.
you, you can trust your audience in a lot of cases to help you.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many moments things have gone awry, both for me on stage, whether I'm
Mhm.
auctioneering or giving a talk or facilitating a workshop, things have gone awry. Tech glitches to, oh my gosh, I'm literally getting heckled in the room,
Or I've
to
completely forgotten what I'm saying
completely
next.
forgotten where
Yeah.
I'm at. But if you have the courage
Mhm.
to be honest about that moment, which isn't to say, guys, I'm lost, help me, but to go, I just got stuck,
Yeah.
or like, where was I for a second?
Yeah.
I remember here's a fun example. And
I have
interestingly,
another example of watching you do this in a group meeting that I want to share, but go
okay,
ahead.
great, great.
Yeah.
So there's two examples that come to mind for me. One is I was working on Rio's bid, and Egberto, this is all about you if you're watching this on the back end. And there was a moment where one of our presenters who ran like sports programs we had just finished. I can't remember if we had heard a testimonial. I mean, this is years ago, right? We were working on Rio 2016's bid to host the games. So it was like 2007 or whatever. And he got choked up and he had to stop.
Mm.
And instead of pretending it wasn't happening, he actually brought the room. Oh, I'm like getting choked up thinking about it. He brought the room with him by saying, like having an honest moment that was off book, and said
Together.
together. And it was
Yeah.
like, this is kind of a context folks can imagine, like a UN summit where there's like 15 people in a big round circle with push to talk, simultaneous translation. It's very formal. And he literally stopped and said, that really hit me. And then or something like that very quickly, and then got back into it in that way. Although it was an out of control, it wasn't a planned moment. It put him more in control and in resonance and in empathy, basically, with what was going on in the room, to have the courage to, I'm going to say, capitalize or have an honest moment in that moment. And the room softened. You could feel it. Like, people at the other side of the table sort of smiled, and it was like, it was actually a shared moment. It wasn't him just resisting it. It was such a beautiful moment. It stood out to me so strongly.
So awesome.
Secondly, you want to hear my big fail that like helps me remember how much I have to eat my own dog food when I say trust your audience, trust your audience. Before the pandemic, I was doing an art auction. Folks watching this back need to know that I do fundraising auctioneering for women-led nonprofits and nonprofits that benefit women and girls for an impact hobby. And we're like, we've got 10 pieces of art to, it's here in Berkeley. We've got 10 pieces of art to auction. And, the price points are anywhere between, $3,000 and $15,000 for these, just to give people a sense of it. And we have a big piece, and sitting right down in front of me is someone I won't name, but a very prominent, well-known collector who's influential in the Bay Area, who, when he walks in the room, people know he's there, etc. And someone else who was bidding. So we had, like, it was the fourth or fifth item in the 10 lots, and we got into bidding. And I was having so much fun as the auctioneer. This gentleman, who's this reputable, well-known collector, was bidding on this item along with somebody off to my right, stage right, but audience left. And I ended up having so much fun. All of a sudden, I lost my numbers. I lost my numbers in front of one of the most reputable art collectors who goes to auctions 100 times a year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I lost my numbers so hard, I had to ask the room what number I was at. I had to say, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, where are we now? And people just kind of, haha. I went, no. I don't actually know who the winning bidder is, and I don't know what number we're at. Can someone help me? Can someone remind me? Like, I literally had to ask multiple times. Finally, someone gave me the numbers. We had a little bit of a back and forth. It was a shared experience. They saved my butt, and I got back into the bidding, and we ended up completing it at a number that we were all very proud of, but also that we had an experience together.
Right.
And I was like, oh yes, your audiences will help you.
Yeah.
And that number was the only thing I was supposed to be keeping track of that night.
But they'll remember that auction.
They did. We talked about it afterwards, and it was fun. But like, it was one of those moments where it's like, I could pretend I know what number it is, and it could be $2,000 off, or I could bring this to a screeching halt,
right?
Ask for help and get it, and I did, and it was a lovely. Like, 6 people in the room got to be a hero that night.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, I love that.
Okay. What's the thing? What did I?
Okay. I want to quickly share. So I remember facilitating a workshop with you. That's actually a workshop I facilitate. And we got to a point with this group where we were doing some interactive exercises. And I posed this question, and it was like crickets in this room of like 12 people. And I was like, okay, that's never really happened before.
I was usually sitting down, right? Like, I
think you were sitting. Yeah, you were sitting. We were co-presenting it, but it was my portion that I was presenting. And I was like, okay. And all I could think to do was to ask again. I was like, okay, so, think about it this way. And it was still crickets. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, we're in front of these C-level executives, like, oh, and you got up and you immediately turned it into an interactive exercise. You were like, okay. And you started passing out paper. Everybody break up in twos. You're going to do this in twos. Because I think you sensed that they were having trouble communicating in front of the group, but that they had ideas to share. And I actually didn't see it. I was like too concerned with, oh my God, this is in front of the CIO. And you immediately just got up like very aggressively, like scaring them a little bit, like, here. And you started passing out. And actually, the 5 or 10 minutes that it took to do that exercise was way more fruitful than if they had just shouted out answers in a group. They were actually able to, and it was a powerful lesson for me in that, like, don't keep beating your head against a brick wall doing it the same way. Sure. Like, find a different way to get from people what they need and what you need from them. And it was masterful. Like, it was just like, and it was so on brand for you, because you were just like, okay, I'm tired of waiting. Like, here.
Yeah.
and it ended up being amazing, right? And it didn't have to be this huge, like, okay, we're not getting any of the answers we need, but we can't really move on until we get the answers we need. You know, where the whole thing could have come to a screeching halt.
What I love about what you're pointing to, I do remember that moment now that you say it, is that, you know, we can also ask for help, bring things to a screeching halt, change direction without making ourselves wrong.
Right.
Well,
and acting like it was part of it. I think that was the biggest thing, is like, even in the agility of the adjustment, it was a seamless, like, oh, this happens all the time. Like, you were able to pick it right up and nobody knows.
And I didn't say so, because I can imagine me saying something like, y'all are a little stuck right now, aren't you? Let's try this.
Oh, you did. Totally. You were like, okay, everybody's stuck. Nobody's talking. This isn't working. Here.
Yes. And that is about trusting the audience, that if I call them out, that they are stuck. This is not about making them wrong, but as we come at it, we can come at it with the sense of, I see you.
Yeah.
Let me help. That's it.
This is the great thing about the work I do with corporate teams for brand strategy projects, because I make them get people in the room that the marketing people are a little confused why these people are in the room. Like, they're engineers or technology folks or whatever. And I was like, just trust them. They don't know anything about marketing. And that's actually why we're going to get good stuff from them.
Yes.
Because they don't know the rules. And just trust them to talk. And you can tell, like, at the beginning of the workshop, when those people start talking and ranting, the marketing people get a little like, oh, and
you don't have to defend. You don't have to defend.
Go with it.
Listen. Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Like, you have to trust that those people can have the right input for you. Yeah.
So this thing of, like, trust your audience is sort of like, that's a thing for you to do. But what are we really speaking to right now? Like, things are more powerful when what we're talking about is present and is allowed to be present. What are we talking about?
I think we're talking about the point you alluded to earlier, and then I'm going to have to jump off.
Yes.
It's that we have to always remember, no matter what, when we're presenting, it's not an adversarial relationship.
Yes.
We are in a shared experience together, and they want you to succeed as much as you want to succeed. So look at it as a co-creation of this experience, not just, I'm going to stand on high and impart wisdom to you, and you will judge me on whether I have succeeded or failed. Right. But no, we're spending this hour together, and I want to do well for you, and you want me to do well for you, because you don't want to waste your hour.
Yes.
And I think when we look at it as like a shared community experience versus this, like,
performance,
you think about, like, the movie, I'm dating myself, the movie Flashdance, where she walks into the room in front of the 4 judges that are judging her dance routine. It's not that.
No.
It's like,
but boy, it feels like
it. It feels like it, but it's like reminding ourselves, like, they want you to deliver a great presentation and performance just as much as you want to.
Yes.
And not like, and it's hard when people are sitting there like this, or they're on their phones. And that's where I'm sort of like, it's a challenge.
Well, I'm going to go back then. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to end, Maria. I'm going to go back to the 21 things you can do right here, which you can get at diabondi.com. What you're pointing to is going back to thing one, which is to go first. If you have a room full of people with their arms crossed, it is your duty right now to go first in extending the intention you want to set for the hour you'll spend together.
Totally. Okay. I love it. All right. I'm so sorry. I got to go.
You can get Maria's book at theempathyedge.com. You can also find her at Red Slice Branding.
Red-slice.com.
Red-slice.com.
Podcast.
That's right. Awesome. She's got the Empathy Edge podcast and all things empathy. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I love it. It was so good to see you.
It's so good. Okay, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.